Hi everybody, this is Wes. I'm returning back to commenting on the video after the fact, so I'm watching a replay of this painting process in which I will be painting another Notes on a Landscape series painting. This one of a pair of Spoonbills, roseate Spoonbills, roseated. I kind of started off finding the center of the canvas, and then from there I'm kind of judging where both of these birds are located in the overall image. I'd actually recorded audio at the time, so you probably will see me referring to the canvas, pointing and as if talking about it, because I was, but the audio quality wasn't good enough, so I'm going to re-record this now. As always, I'm kind of taking my time placing the shapes where they need to go on the canvas. My reference photo was a couple of Creative Commons photos I found online that I combined into one. Here I'm repositioning that one. It was too high on the canvas, so I'm repainting it, redrawing it with paint. Now I'm doing the same with the other one. This for me was an odd composition, having both of the birds facing away from the center, which was a bit of a problem for me. I think right here at the beginning I'm kind of explaining that it was a bit of a problem, psychological problem on my end probably, just getting past the fact that it seems like, both of the birds' gazes were facing out of the frame of reference, out of the canvas, which isn't an ideal setup. You want the viewer's eyes to stay within the canvas and not be let out. And so, yeah, it was kind of, kept trying to reposition the birds closer in together so their heads weren't right up to the edge of the painting. Ultimately, I don't think it mattered as much. Alright, finally getting to the background. I'm adding in the reference photo has it almost black at the top because it's kind of all in shadow. The dark waters back there. These are all wading in water. So I'm kind of filling that in. To get a good rich black, I tried to combine burnt umber with phthalo blue or ultramarine blue, either one. When combined, that blue and that brown kind of create a neutral gray. And then you can, if you like it to lean more of a cool variant, then you add a little more blue. If you want it a little warmer, you add a little more of the brown. That's a good way to work with a neutral black. Trying to finally get it over with, fill in all the white of the canvas with something of a water value and hue. I'm back with China markers, which are a wax pencil. I don't remember what I was talking about at the time, but I'm using these just to redefine the shapes, to see where maybe I'm off a bit on the placement of things. Sometimes using a pencil, it's different than using a brush. It's more defined and more precise. So it helps me to, refine exactly where the edges are going to be using a pencil like this. And usually that's all painted over on this, although in this case it's not absolutely needed. I can keep the pencil in the final product because half of the interest of the painting is going to be written words in the pencil. It's just part of the conceit of the painting. The bird on the right is looking a little more like a pelican at this stage, but it's just because I haven't gone back in and fixed it. I don't have much of a history with spoonbills per se. I think they're beautiful animals. I don't think I've ever seen them in the wild, but I know there's people who have, and I just thought it'd be a cool subject matter to paint. I don't think I'm take that back. I have painted one other painting, and that was a commission for somebody of spoonbills. And reading a little about them, I think they're pretty much everywhere in the world. I know we have them on the Gulf Coast of Louisiana. Well, that's spoonbills. I don't know about roseated spoonbills. Now I'm adding more of the blue of what it should be more like in the finished painting. This part's a bit uninteresting to me. I don't know if it is for the viewers. You be the judge, but it's all kind of set up for the painting to come. I haven't really started painting yet in my mind. Here I thought I would just kind of do a little outlining just to solidify the forms. in the photo there's not really a black outline on the tops of the birds, but there is a bit of a shadow at the bottom, some of the bottom parts. Doing this by outlining it, for one thing, like I said, solidifies what the shapes are, but also when you come back to paint in subsequent stages of the painting, you can cut back into those black borders to even get rid of them totally if you want to, but by painting in the foreground color and the background color, like I said, you can get rid of it entirely if you want to, but the parts that remain have the potential to be interesting. So that would be one reason or one idea behind outlining at this stage. And here, for instance, I'm kind of taking that back out, the black line. I was just checking to see if the paint was dry, and it's pretty much dry except for on the black lines there, I think, at this stage. Acrylic paint dries fairly quickly. The idea is always you're coming back over with each layer, most of the time as an opaque layer, to get rid of the previous layers. Although you can do some transparent washes and the like. Alright, now finally going in with white, getting that main highlight color. I'm pointing out here that this is kind of shaping the form of the second bird with the highlight of the other bird. And as I'm painting, as with any layer of this painting, I'm kind of trying to get it close as I can, but not concerned with getting it exact. It's always an iteration, a correction process. That one's looking a little more like a spoonbill now, I think. This one I ended up painting the bill a little broadly. I think I'm pointing that out as I'm talking on the video, but I'm not correcting it now because there's a lot of paint on the canvas and it's better to let it dry. If I tried to correct it with, blue of the background, for instance, or the black of the outlining, it would more than likely smear into the wet paint of the bill, and so it would kind of defeat the purpose to correct it at this point. It's better to let it dry. You could also scrape off the wet paint so it'll dry faster, but whatever works. As with any of my paintings, this is just a demonstration on how I think of it and how I'm painting. There's an infinite number of ways a person can approach the painting process. This is obviously returning after it's dried. I do like the pink of these spoonbills. Real beautiful. It's funny, that's a word I would avoid when I'm doing writing, the word real. But for some reason when I'm talking about it, I tend to use the word real or really which is terrible. It's a bad habit. Maybe if I pointed it out to myself, I'll stop doing it. But I wouldn't hold my breath. Finally getting back to cutting into that shape to make it narrower. That's looking a little better already. It was around this time when I wasn't sure if I was going to make this a words on a landscape series painting, which for those of you who don't know, I've recently started this series where I start a painting and get it to a certain stage, and then I go back in with pencil with white and black China marker, almost as a stream of consciousness, word salad, poetic thing. I go through and just write descriptive words, phrases, evocative words on the canvas itself, and that becomes part of the overall look of it. So in this one, I wasn't quite sure if I was going to do that, because I was liking the painting itself as it was. Ultimately, I chose to go on ahead through with it, keeping in mind that I could always paint back over it and return it to a standard painting. I like to do these series every now and then as almost a perfect opportunity to practice a certain thing. Years ago, my kind of biggest example of this was my civilization series of landscapes. They were kind of primitive, primary color landscapes, a lot of squares. I thought of it as like a discipline. Like for a full year, it may have been like slightly less than a year, I kind of focused mainly on that type of painting, and that allowed me to get pretty good at balancing color. So that was kind of my main takeaway on that painting. And that was at the start of my kind of experimenting with abstraction, kind of coming off of more realistic painting and not really having a style per se. And that was a very stylistic decision to make these primitive abstract landscapes. And so with this series, doing the words on a canvas, the notes on the landscape idea, I don't know, it's just something new for me to try. And again, it's not something not a specific thing I've seen anywhere, but I'm sure I've seen it before, especially in consumer products. For instance, the design of, countless birthday cards, for instance, patterns for fabric, that kind of thing. I'm sure it's there in the fine art world as well, but anyway, this is kind of my spin on it, I guess. At this point, I'm trying to figure out, how far do I take the painting itself before I go in with the words, with the writing. There's not really a set rule, of course. This is just all subjective. I am nearing the end of the painting here. Oh, here we go with the writing. I didn't film a lot of this, so you will see a big jump after a bit here. A jump from this little part to the finished painting. So what I did was, after going through with these white China markers, I'd switch to black on the lighter surfaces and do more with that and fill the painting pretty much as best I could. And then I go back with paint and create kind of a transparent look. At the very end, I thought it'd be cool to put little halos around each of the birds. They do look a bit angelic after all. Anyway, that's pretty much it. So I call this one Notes on a Landscape, and then subtitle Spoonbills. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment, click like, and subscribe for more. Thanks.